great joys with the Center Court MBA Festival is to connect with the team at Stanford and the GSB, and in particular, Will Torres. Will has been a great friend of Center Court and is the Director of Outreach for MBA admissions at the school. Will, it's always lovely to see you and sporting the Stanford colors.
Yeah, I have a unsurprisingly large collection of Stanford gear at this point.
Well, I'm sure that many of our viewers aspire to join the program and head into the gift store, buy their own t-shirts. I think I've got a couple upstairs. But what we imagined was it's Friday at 7:55, and we can explain to the viewers why we've chosen that particular time. But you bring your normal joy and laughter to our breakfast conversation. So we imagine, perhaps that we're meeting at the entrance to the GSB campus, and there's always that thrill coming down Palm Drive, seeing the university campus with 160 palm trees on either side. Now, the relationship between the GSB and the wider university, how does that benefit the Stanford MBA experience?
Yeah, I think one of the best things about it, it's this integration of both the GSB to the wider community. It's like one contiguous campus. So in the course of a day, you could be taking your classes at the GSB and then walk 5, 10 minutes to the School of Law and take a negotiations class there. Maybe there's a speaker at the med school. Maybe you're interested in like biodesign innovation or something. That's a 15, 20 minute walk across. Actually, that picturesque scene behind you, straight across, 15, 20 minutes, you're there. And then there's a ton of facilities, events always happening. So it's a way to add some extra dimension and layer to both the physical kind of environment as well as that intellectual stimulation, which is really cool.
There's already, 430 students in the MBA program, but to then extend to such
Hmm.
diversity across all of these different, well, it is a beautiful campus. And as we move deeper into the GSB campus, of course, we have this memorable monument to change as it changes. Now, the school motto, change lives, change organizations, change the world. What does that say? And perhaps the wall as an extension of that about the approach to business at the GSB.
Yeah, I think something about the motto that change lives, change organizations, change the world. I think there's a lot of subtlety in there that sometimes we skip over. We get to the change the world part, and that can feel really big. And for some people, that comes naturally. But for others, it's like, I don't know if I want to change the world. I don't know if that's my mission. Um, but we forget to change organizations, change lives. Sometimes there's a project or something that just really speaks to you. Or maybe there's somebody you see who's struggling by supporting them, by kind of tackling this issue that your group has been facing. In changing kind of the circumstance of that one thing, there's that ripple effect. And changing lives, changing organizations, and changing the world is almost like the byproduct of your actions versus the goal in and of itself. And so I think it's this beautiful commentary on do the things that you love, do the things that drive you, and these kind of ripple effects will come on their own. And I think it's just that belief that you can do something kind of filled into kind of everything that we do.
Right now, it's the motto that everybody remembers. I've
Hmm.
actually written about that in Forbes, how it sticks in people's minds, perhaps for the candidate applying to business school. I mean, you've addressed it. This idea, oh, change the world. It sounds so lofty. The scope. What is
Yeah.
the scope of that? But bringing it back a step, and the example that you gave with changing lives, great if you came up with some medical treatment that somehow has positively affected 760,000 lives, but it can be one person, whether that's a member of your family, a member of your team at work. It can be at a much more immediate level.
Definitely. Change. I think this like false dichotomy of is it big enough or is it quote unquote meaningful enough? Um, if it's important to you, it's important to us. And I think it's reframing the way that we think about how we do things and the why can sometimes help you unlock some of those like magical pieces. You're like, wait, no, this is something I can tackle. Oh, here's how I might do it differently. And then actually having the courage to do something about it. And I think that's when change happens, when you're able to do things differently, because you're like, the way we're doing it now, maybe just isn't right or isn't enough, or there's something special that we can do.
Now, the monument or the wall, as we think about it, of course, is a sometimes it's a rainbow of colors, and great for the Instagram generation. But equally, it can then you can see sequences where it just has many words across across that wall. Do you think there are any of those words that particularly resonate with the Stanford MBA experience?
Okay, in a weird way, it comes back to that notion of change. The same way that each of us, might need something different, like depending on how we're feeling or the project that we're working on. The way that the wall of change, so the tiles, there's a separate changes in adverb where the words are popping up. What speaks to you in the moment may be different from now to tomorrow to next week. And so it's in that constant mode of change. You never know what's going to speak to you, which also speaks to the dynamism of life. So I think there's not one thing necessarily, but it could be, hey, there's something in this moment that really works and that'll change over time, and that's okay. And to kind of live in that moment. I think, at least for me, that's what speaks to me the most, that, you know, it's not going to be one static thing, and that's okay.
Right, right. I was reminded a couple of days ago, I met a Stanford MBA of 20 years ago. Very privileged to have been part of his personal adventure. Um, Themes of generosity, certainly
Mm.
impact, curiosity. You know, he's someone that's fascinated by how the world works, and that always strikes me. You know, these are words or values, ideas that I see as a consistent thread among Stanford MBAs. Now, every year, you and your colleagues in admissions bring together this wonderfully diverse group, diverse across so many measures in their academic backgrounds, their professional backgrounds. I suppose, the core question our viewers will be keen to find out from you. What are you looking for in a Stanford
Yeah.
MBA student?
Yeah, I used to be really uncomfortable with this question. I never knew how to answer it because I never wanted to paint some kind of false archetype that you need to be, or a path you've had to take in to come to Stanford. Uh, but having been asked and like trying to tinker with answers to it over time, um, you do stuff at the fundamental level. If there's something, maybe you're the first person to go to want to go to college, you'll do something about it. Or maybe there is this financial model that you're trying to figure out, and there's something that just isn't right. Either you go to people to look for support or expertise, or you do the research, or you go in there yourself and tinker around with it. So you're doing something. I think at that fundamental level, everybody at Stanford does things. How you do it,
Mm.
it's going to be different. The opportunities where you're going to be able to take action and demonstrate some of these leadership competencies is going to change depending on where you are in life, where in the world, all of these contextual elements. But at the end of the day, what we're looking for, is agnostic to all of that. It comes back to this: what do you do? How do you do it? And what's the context of your actions, to really help us understand, oh yeah, these are the types of footprints you've left behind because of your presence in, that group organization, at home. So just tell us about a time when, and that's going to be a theme you'll hear from me like all year long. It's, tell me a story, tell me about a time when blank. And I
Yeah.
think that's the best way to communicate, just kind of the way that you do things.
Right. And perhaps what's implied there, it's not necessarily captured in a job title or a qualification,
Exactly.
that contribution, the impact that you can then have. Um, as we look at the very holistic admissions process at Stanford, um, you and I have talked about this gift, the chance to apply to a top
Mhm.
business school like Stanford, the mirror that you hold up, this iconic question of what matters most to you and why. What's it, 19, maybe 20 years now that you've asked that great question. So, people that are anxious, oh, what does Stanford want to hear? What am I supposed to say? You typically you like to turn that around and say, well, what do you want to share with us, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's I sometimes I liken it to there's going to be a human reading it at the end of the day. And if it helps, think about what do you want to tell me, Will? Because I read a lot of applications. It's kind of my favorite thing about this job. If it helps you, yeah, think about it as communicating to somebody else. And that helps remove the expectations that there has to be any specific structure or cadence or language that you should be using. And so, what is it that you want me to know about you? Um, Bring me into your life wherever you're comfortable, knowing that, there's some topics, things that maybe you're not as comfortable sharing, totally okay. We want to honor and respect wherever you are in the journey and whatever you're comfortable sharing with us. It's a private space. Nobody else is reading this. There's no faculty involved. Your interviewers don't see it. So it's a chance to really take a moment. It's an invitation to stop and think about who are you? Where do you come from? Why are you the way you are? And maybe in that process also kind of emerge some of the things that, hey, these are the perspectives or stories that I'm going to be bringing to your classroom.
Mm.
These are the things that I can bring into the community. Here's that voice and like worldview that'll help me help your environment become even stronger. So really starting to come to think about it as, that strength-based approach. Plus, there's like some great literature out there about how some of the most successful leaders are the ones who lead from a place of mission, purpose, values. And by digging into what matters to you, it helps you surface some of those. And it kind of already kind of gets you on that kickstart of the leadership journey.
Yeah. So there's that personal voice at the heart of an
Mhm,
individual's application. There are two other voices that are then being brought in of recommenders.
mhm.
Why is that important to you? What are you hoping to learn about the not about the recommender, but about the candidate?
Yeah, so that context piece. So we ask all of our recommenders, how has this person performed relative to equally qualified peers? Tell us about a time when there was feedback. And so really trying to understand what the context of your accomplishments are. And then how do you respond when there's, feedback and thinking about learning, growth, opportunities? Um, because we're all human, we're all learning and growing and interacting with the world around us. And we as individuals might have one perspective. So it's nice to have some other perspectives because sometimes the recommenders are sharing examples or feedback or reflections that you would never know that when I'm reading, I'm like, wow, it's amazing that you have a champion and someone who thinks so highly of you, or dang, did the applicant even know how respected they are? And to be able to get it from some of these outside sources can be, um, it's just inspiring to know just how awesome you all are. Whether or not the outcome is what you hoped it was, just knowing you're doing good stuff out there, gives me a lot of hope.
Right. You and other colleagues have commented, that first day of the new MBA program, welcoming students, how many might say, "Ah, I can't believe that you offered me a place." And often that sense of imposter syndrome, to have a recommender that will, speak on your behalf, the potential that they see in you can be
Mhm.
so powerful, I imagine. Now, this is the first year as we've made this transition from the old GMAT, which continues to be valid for its 5 years from when you took that test, to the new GMAT Focus. Equally, the GRE
Mhm.
has shortened its test and they have a new format. So obviously you, along with all of the other top schools, are sort of feeling your way, looking to benchmark the new test. Any pointers that have emerged from round two, or just how you're approaching it, that viewers, might feel reassured at the view that you're taking on the test?
Yeah, so testing still hasn't changed like our philosophy around it. It's just one way to demonstrate some of the kind of skills that you might need to be successful in the classroom. Like not everybody's a great test taker. There are outside circumstances that might affect your ability to either prepare for the test or actually take it. For example, folks in the military who might be deployed, right? The you might not be in a situation that is super conducive to preparing for that test. And so we're looking everywhere throughout that application. Maybe it's classes you've taken, maybe it's in letters of recommendation where they're talking about how you learn and apply knowledge to kind of in these work or organizational settings. So there's a lot of places that we can actually find some of this evidence, testing just one piece of it. So hope as scary as the numbers look out there, those are outcomes, and there's a whole range of numbers that come in and are admitted and are thriving at the GSB. So, you know, class profiles helpful, but there I also have a bone to pick for that reason because sometimes people interpret the numbers that they see there in a way that isn't actually accurate
Mm.
to what's being reported or what we're trying to communicate to the world at large.
Right. I used the word generosity a few minutes ago. It's a word that I associate with Stanford, and you embody that, Will. Make you blush. It'll go with the shirt.
I know that's why
But
it's a little bit of camouflage.
but you know, the enjoyment that you get of reading applications and perhaps embedded in that is the excitement of the diversity of crafting the next class. What does diversity and inclusion mean to you as you think about bringing together 430 distinct, talented individuals from all around the world?
Yeah, Dean Levin, dean of our business school, said something second, third week on my job. Education is fundamentally about engaging with difference, whether it is a different worldview or a new math theorem. It challenges the way that you see the world and helps you approach things and understand like there's other ways to do stuff. Um, and even with conversations with Dean Levin now, that is a theme that continues to come up. So diversity still really critical to like what makes the GSB so awesome. And it's across a wide range of dimensions as well. Schools of thought, where you're coming from in life, work experience, industry, the intersection of these identities as well and lived experiences. And I think that GSB application in particular invites you to talk about this stuff in a way that's meaningful for you. We don't have a here's a thing that we're looking for necessarily, but what are the factors again that make you who you are, right? It's less about checkboxes and more about, okay, who who am I because of these kind of things that are maybe critical or foundational or pivotal to like the person I am today.
Yeah, yeah. Well, here we are on our Friday morning, taking a walk through campus. We did say it was around 8 o'clock in the morning because, of course, your former colleague, a great friend, Kirsten Moss, who had been the Associate Dean of Admissions, now teaches one of the courses on leadership potential. And I think both of us would love to sneak into the back of that classroom. I don't think I'd be able to resist from raising my hand at some point. So Kirsten's class, of course, the touchy-feely class will be something
Mhm.
that many viewers are familiar with. Why is that class so iconic? And are there other classes that you think typify the learning ethos at the GSB?
It centers you. For so many of us in the educational setting, we're so used to here's a fact, here's a theory, here's something that is being presented to us, read it, memorize it, internalize it, spit it back out. But as a leader, it's just as much about how you interact with others. And especially as you go higher up in the food chain, how do you influence others towards some end goal where oftentimes you might not have formal authority over them or these other things at play. Maybe you're trying to rally people during a crisis. A theory, a fact might not be helpful in and of itself, but how do you as an individual then put that into practice?
Mm.
That's where touchy-feely interpersonal dynamics comes into play, where it helps kind of provide some of these lenses to help you unpack how do I show up in a space, do the things that I think I do well. Is that kind of accurate? Does it reflect? Does it track with how people see me? Why or why not? Um, and I think that fundamental shift that centers you as the individual in the learning versus the topic material just blows people's minds. And I think there definitely are other classes kind of along this range. Um, so Arbuckle Fellows, so that's a program for MBA 2s focused around leadership development, coaching, and mentoring. And so you are in a class, you know, MBA 1s that you're supporting them through some of these leadership circumstances. You yourself are taking a fall and winter quarter course to help support you. There's leadership coaches that you meet with as well to fine-tune your own abilities. Um, and then you continue to mentor folks through your the course of the year.
Mm.
And so really putting into practice and exercising these skills that you're going to be using your entire career. Um, and then of course there's like some of the other classes that blow people's minds. Like you wouldn't expect it at first. One of the most popular or like the some of the best feedback we got this year from our class visit. So people visiting campus, sitting in on a class, financial statement analysis.
Mm.
Not exactly the sexiest name out there,
Huh.
but the way the topic material, the way Professor Petrosky talks about it, engages the class, people always leave and they're like, whoa, like minds blown, eyes wide open, taking a moment to just process what they walked out of. That one's always a fun one to, when I'm walking people in, I'm like, hey, you're going to be taking financial statement analysis. And to see their face and they're like, huh. And I'm like, no, just wait. And then they come out and they're like, oh no, you were so right. It's like that for a lot of classes
Yeah.
at the GSB, actually. Yeah.
Well, we were saying before we started the recording, just over 6 years that you've been with, but to see those eyes wide open, those minds
Mm,
blown,
mm.
or the reactions, you must never get tired of it. It's fantastic. Now, of course, beyond the classroom, and such a personalized core curriculum, the endless electives that are available to the students. But then there are the clubs and the guest speakers, events that are available. I mean, it's just constant opportunities. Um, Talk a little bit about beyond the classroom and the things that students can explore.
Philosophically, the idea at Stanford is student-led, staff supported. So if you're interested in something, it's there, whether it's there or you want to launch something around it, it's possible. So a couple of different things here. There are kind of professional organizations, so venture capital club, entrepreneurship club. There's regional interests. So maybe you're interested in doing business in India, right? There's a club that helps support kind of some of that kind of pathways of exploration, understanding what's possible. Um, the consortium, it's a organization like working towards addressing the significant underrepresentation of Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans in business and business education. Open to everybody, as long as you have a demonstrated commitment to that mission. It's another one of these communities we have at Stanford to help, whether it's kind of around an identity, or maybe it's around a passion, something that you really care about, to develop community, a space to engage with it. This past year, some of our students have been organizing and have formed a disability and caregivers club at the GSB, thinking about the needs not just of folks who might have a disability, chronic illness, or be a caregiver themselves, but what does it mean to be in organizations where folks might identify that way? How can we be supportive? How can we raise some of these topics and issues that you as leaders are going to be kind of engaging with in different ways? Um, and at the end of the day, it's going to come down to like, what are your priorities? Because there is going to be so much you can definitely run out of time. And then it just becomes an exercise of, okay, class, personal, extracurriculars, career, where do I need to be kind of within that to find personal equilibrium between advisors, academic advisors, career, your classmates. Me, I love checking in with the students, getting coffee, seeing how things are going. There's a lot of folks who can help you kind of navigate that balance over your time there, because we really just want to see you thrive and be able to engage with the things that are most meaningful for you.
Right. I think the first course I should probably sign up for is something around time management because
Oh
with
yeah.
so many different options and guest speakers, entrepreneurs, CEOs, impact investors, the list is very long. As we think about careers and the
Mhm.
opportunities that GSB graduates are going to enjoy, both the Bay Area and perhaps some of the ways that opens doors, but across the rest of the country and in the world. So talk about maybe even how the summer internship also can then be an important inflection point as students think about those different opportunities.
Yeah, no matter where you go, top tip is check in with the career management center, career support services, and whatever it's called at that school. Even if you already feel super confident, you're like, I know what I want to do. Here's the thing, I kind of have it lined up already. Always worth checking in with them just to see what they provide and support. Maybe there's something down the line that you're going to want to explore a little bit. Maybe it's internships. Maybe it's support and how to break into these spaces. They have the playbooks for pivoting, or who are the alumni who have done this before who we can connect you with. Um, so that is one of my top career tips. No matter where you go, check in with them. Many schools will also start doing at least some programming or education in the summer before your MBA 1 year. Just knowing how many opportunities are available kind of early on, just wanting to prepare you for that.
Mm.
Um, I'm on the same floor in our office as, or in the building as our career management center. And just to see how they're engaging with folks, when students come in and then have like that stress or like what's going on, and to see them as they're leaving people's offices, just looking a little bit more relaxed. They might not, they probably haven't solved everything or anything, but just knowing that there's that mental and emotional kind of space to be able to know you have people who have your back,
Mm.
whether you have that singular, I know what I want to do, or I do want to explore a little bit. Here are the things that are meaningful for me. How do we incorporate that into something that matters? I know there's one of our teammates in the career services whose jam is supporting both international students and students who want to have like an international career trajectory. She is, oh, that makes her so joyful, right? And so even knowing that as much as on the admission side, I love this work, there's people who have that same type of commitment on the career side. Um, yeah, it's just really cool to see them kind of supporting y'all through all through the process.
As we imagine the dialogue between you and your admissions colleagues and then
Mhm.
the career management team, um, you ask in one of the essays, why Stanford, as the candidate reflects on the culture, the alignment, what they would love to bring as well as what they're looking forward to enjoying. How much attention do you pay to post-MBA career goals? I mean, this is an opportunity to explore, and I'm sure surrounded by 430 equally diverse, open-minded, ambitious, talented individuals, you could go in so many directions. So how do you frame what an individual might be thinking beyond business school as part of the application?
Yeah, okay, this is the part where I might get in trouble for saying this, but we actually care a lot less than you might think. Because look, so I'll start it with it's important to know why you want to go to business school, right? Beyond just exploration, maybe you're exploring in a direction. What is that direction? Kind of a theme throughout our conversation is there's so much stuff to do that having that purpose and vision for what you want to get out of your 2 years will actually help you a lot in figuring out, okay, how do I prioritize my time? Um, Ultimately, once you're here at the GSB, whether you're taking advantage of the Career Management Center, talking with alumni, speakers who are hanging out after class and talking to you, um, we believe you can do anything. And honestly, like 3/4 of you will change something while you're at the GSB. So why would I hold you to what you wrote in that essay? So as long as it's convincing to you in the moment, and as long as it's helping you understand what the community, what the culture is at the GSB, and why Stanford for you.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, the for you part is what's essential, because our hope is that we can help you accomplish your goals. And in exploring how we might be able to help you do that, that only sets you up even better for your time here or what other schools you're looking for. Um, and in a weird way, the more you think about, okay, what do I want to get out of this? What are my big goals? If I could do anything, what would it be? And work backwards from there. That can also help enrich some of the questions you're asking, like admission officers, or as you're reading articles, being able to catch onto things that are, oh, wait, no, that actually sounds really relevant
Hmm.
and opens a new doorway for you to maximize your time with officers, websites, webinars, even. So in a weird way, not in a weird way, but in a way that people don't always expect. Again, it's less about us, it's more about you and how do we fit in with the picture that you want to paint for your future.
Right. You get to meet candidates so early in the process, right? With that application, you talk about their goals, their hopes and dreams that they're sharing with you. From then meeting them on the first day of the new MBA program and 2 years later, you mentioned how they might come out of career management walking a little taller. Um, can you tangibly see a difference in the students as they progress through the two years of the Stanford MBA?
Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
and this is the wildest, not wildest part. I keep saying that. It's not as wild as you think it is, but it's also the most humbling from the admission side. You all are going through your 2 years, so you don't always see the changes or recognize. It's like us and aging, right? You one day you like open your eyes, like, oh, whoa, I am this person that I don't remember. That's not, I don't remember my hair color being that. Um, it's like that at the GSB over the course of your 2 years. Honestly, even over the course of your first quarter, some of the ways of speaking, especially about feedback and the culture, you see I already start seeing a difference in the way people are engaging with topics and ideas over that first term. And then as you get to your MBA 2 year, it's this sense of a couple different things. A, the thing that I care about is important. Because sometimes when we start, we're like, oh, this is something that's important to me, but I don't know if it's important or if it's people will laugh at me for it. Um, it is important. And then the next piece is some of the, oh, how might I be able to address this, right? That's that spirit of innovation and creativity. Here's a topic, here's something that's meaningful for me. How might I approach it in a way that actually makes sense for me, my skill sets, kind of my environment, my resources? And then that third layer is the courage to actually do it,
Mm.
right? Yes, there is risk involved, but being able to understand what that risk is and approach it appropriately for yourself, right? Some of this calculated risk, and knowing that at the end of the day, you still can learn something. Failure isn't what we might have learned it to be growing up. Um, and with the resources and people around you and the champions and cheerleaders you've kind of formed over your time here, it's like, this is actually the perfect time for me to experiment with it because, you know, when else? And so I see that change and that like belief in oneself kind of evolve and take on dimension first quarter, but definitely through into the MBA 2 year. Um, it's always kind of bittersweet because it's like, oh, my little admission babies taking wing and flying out of the nest. And then, but it's also like, this is what you're here for. And it's the most incredible thing to witness.
Yeah, yeah. Some of my colleagues, Heidi, Rachel, Tatiana, they were back on the campus last summer for their 25th GSB MBA alumni reunion with Derek Bolton, who was also in the class of 98. Derek, of course, came up with the question, what matters most to you and why, and is held so dear by the entire community. When alumni, whether 5 years out or 25 years out, when they think back to their Stanford experience. Are there things that you often hear, something that was particularly memorable or that they've always then taken away with them?
Consistently, hands down, it's the people.
Yeah.
Um, and a couple different ways. It's you're engaging with people that you might never have interacted with outside life. Or even at the GSB, there might be folks with different hobbies, interests that, in other spaces you would never interact with, but because of a global study trip or one of these other things, like, oh no, there's so much more. And like once you dig beyond these like initial layers, well, we actually have a lot in common. Who was I talking to? One of our alumni in Dubai was talking this exact thing. There was somebody who was there completely opposite them personality wise. Over the course of their global study trip, they got really close. Years later, they were at each other's weddings. And so in being able to see people in kind of deeper ways and understanding the power of that and connection, I think that's where people will always come back to. And you're learning in the class, and that learning is like pumped up to the next level because of the discussions you're having with people, whether you agree with that idea or not. They're the ones who are adding that texture to the academic learnings. And so it just further enriches experience. And so, yeah, every time, hands down, the people. And being here, I have to agree.
You are an extraordinary ambassador for the school. Is there one FAQ that you get as much as any of the others? Perhaps, so something that I haven't asked you in this session together, just one of those questions that comes up again and again. It's like, Let me just talk to this because, many of the viewers might have that question. What would it be?
Yeah, if taking a little bit more of an abstract, because I try my best to dig into the question to see what the source of it is, because a question asked, I might give the response to that question, but it might not satisfy the hunger that that question was trying to address. And one of the big themes isn't, well, what are the resources here? But is it, do I have a chance? Will I belong? Is it worth it? And I think for that end of the day, my answer is yes. And here's how. Let's talk about it. Let's recenter. Let's focus on you. Um, because so many times you aren't aware of the, okay, this I already going off on a weird metaphor here, but you aren't aware of your own glitter, like the things that make you shine, all of those little pieces that sparkle that the world can see, that I'm seeing through the application. We don't see it in ourselves, whether that is just personal humility, the cultures we grew up in. Um, and so oftentimes my responses come back to helping us understand, okay, no, like how do we empower? How do we reframe those questions of answering and naming, like that question, will I belong? Is it worth it? Do I have a chance? And that's, forming the foundation for that our conversation.
Mm.
And those are always okay questions to ask.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, in the outreach and really getting to know the school better and all of the members of this community, what would you recommend for anyone that's considering Stanford GSB to find out more about the school touch points that you think are particularly helpful?
Yeah, we have this summer we're going to be holding a whole host of both online events. So no matter where in the world you are, we'll also be traveling and going to a lot of different destinations worldwide. So hopefully we'll be able to interact in person. On our website, we also have a page of MBA ambassadors that you could submit questions to, and they can help answer questions there. And then feel free to email us. There are a team of folks, actually it's my team, that helps answer these. And we check in with each other, see how best we can support each other, if there's kind of a nuanced or niche question. And I actually have a whole series of MBA application workshops. So if you search Stanford GSB application workshops, I created a whole set of resources there that unpacks what is our admission process? What are we looking for? How might it manifest for you? And then really doing some skill building around, okay, given where I am, what my situation is, how can I tell my story using the tools of the application to put together something I'm proud of? And that is going to be helpful to the admissions office. So really trying to give you some skills, insights, and exercises to understand the process, because it can be really daunting if you don't have anyone. And so this is another one of those moments of let me be here to support you.
Yeah. Well, I come back to generosity. I was also going to say, I know that you bring joy and laughter to your family, to your friends. I'm going to actually update that. You bring glitter and sparkle, whether it's to your teammates, to the applicants, the students,
And carbs. I bring a
and,
lot of carbs to events. Yeah.
and certainly to Center Court. And now I know that if you're about to break a rule, you look to one side, you touch the bridge of your nose, and then you break the rule and say the thing maybe that you're not supposed to say. But you're so open and transparent. And I think for our viewers, that's incredibly, incredibly valuable. So encourage everybody to watch that video series that you've put together. It's really thoughtful, insightful, and empowering. Will, it's always a joy to welcome you to Center Court. Lovely to touch base again. Thank you for taking this virtual tour of Stanford with us today.
Of course. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, everybody who sat through this. Best of luck. You have this. And don't forget, you have glitter. It's there. Let it shine.